the at that level, or he is not able to furnish you based on the type of data. However, I can say the access to information will allow you to have this. Because we're not telling you about strategy, it's not pre-operation, it's post-operational data that you're asking. Is it post-operational? Yes, so it's already through the gate, and we can give you some aspects of it. We are always mindful of the citizens that we target out there and try as best as possible to safeguard them. So some aspects of the citizens' information will not readily be passed to you. However, the quantitative data for your research, it is available. The other question that surrounds the fatigue, and when you say fatigue, fatigue is more military. We use uniforms. In terms of the wearing of uniforms, yes, if you put on a police uniform and you dress up like a superintendent, and everyone in here believes that you're a superintendent, and you carry out the actions of a superintendent, you are actually impersonating the police. However, if you realize there is a little distinction in terms of the completion of our uniform, we have insignias, right? So you see that insignia, it depicts the JCF. We have different insignias. We have buttons depicting the crown, and I have different formats. So if you should take up a blue looking denim and put it on, right, for your filming without these insignia, and you're not impersonating the police against another citizen, that should be something that you're not sent to jail for, So you ensure that you are mindful as to the insignias and the purpose of what you are using this for. Because a lot of things go down in filming. When I say a lot of things, you see people just like doctors, like law. It is filming, it's acting, right? And the environment is controlled. Because when you have that imitation gun over there, don't walk out on the street with it, because you're fine to have it at the area where you're doing that acting, but you're not fine to have it walking through our streets. So the control environment actually reduces. It's like boxing. I'm allowed to punch you if we're boxing. I don't go to jail for that. It's excusable. The law says so, right? But if I walk up to you and punch you and we're not boxing, I'll go to jail for that. I hope you will go to jail for that too if you walk up to someone and punch them, right? So it's the circumstance that surround the action will change a lot about it. So don't have a mindset. When it's filming, it's filming. Just look at the authorization and the environment. Work with that. You get away with a lot of things in film. All right?
Yes. You just said authorization. I didn't hear you say it while you were discussing about the police apparels. So if it is that we're going to be using police clothing, we just need to at least let you know.
How would you get it? It's a property of the government, the commissioner of police. How would you get it?
No, I don't necessarily mean like using, exactly as yours, but if we create, because I mean,
so if you go and make yourself, I had khakis before I was a superintendent, and I'm sure no one couldn't arrest me for having khakis. So, well, but you would not want to have the exact uniform. You are doing filming, so you'll make your stuff, right? Because the ones that are police, they are the property of the commissioner of police, right?
Okay, so once we have permission, we can use that. Otherwise, just create whatever.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
In addition to the uniform.
Your question is easy. Should have asked
Yeah,
that before.
pretty easy.
All right, go ahead.
The uniform. What if we can make it exactly the same way but leave out the apparatus?
I've seen films with them.
Should
What's
have
the
no
name
problem.
of the guy? I've seen one of those Jamaican films. I keep seeing them come out and reflect on your memory. This should be an exam question for you. You realize that the caps, they're not with badges. You should realize that by now. So even when you're watching a local play, they don't have the badges. I've seen them, and all of you jog your memory and see. So the caps don't have that little shine thing there, right? And the shoulder flashes are not there, and they don't have the regulations, and they don't have the insignias from our organization in terms of the buttons. So, and you'll not see them with a regulation looking shoes like my shoes. So even if they have a shine shoes, it's just not a police shoes, you know? So I've seen a lot of films, local films, and those are the things that are, so for example, my cap, without that badge on it, right? My belt without that badge on it, it's a normal belt.
Okay, so it's perfectly legal and it's okay to do that without the emblem.
The use. And my answers to you are specific to filming. So don't go walking out there on St. James Street just like a cop. All right? Good. All right? Yes, sir. All right, different companies wear combats. So what we have is combats that bear insignia or there are regulation issues. So you might not see, but there are significant marks that says JCF somewhere inside them, underneath them, or whatever. Because you can walk into a store in the US and pick up a combat in Germany. I've seen them all over in which country? Even Trinidad. They are there. So it's not illegal to have them. But maybe, you know, you're dressing up with them looking just like the security forces might send the wrong message. All right? Any more questions? Because looks as if I'm doing a good job feeling your questions. So, because it seems as if you're out of questions or you're getting there. So feel free to push the questions that the area, so you have a cop to field some questions from that you might not get the opportunity again in your career until you get there. So push that now and let's see. Any member from, so what was the population? Students and teachers? Lecturers? Producers? So from the tutors, any questions that you want to ask of the police? Repeat? I'll take one from the tutors. You've been represented. Perfect. You're letting them get off easy.
Okay, as a freelancer, the process you described in getting permissions and the support of the JCF, I get the impression that maybe the jobs you've helped in the past had big production crews and so on. So what is the difficulty level with a smaller production in getting assistance from the JCF?
All right, I'll say this to you. The request that you're making is not, we wouldn't look at your request based on where it's coming from. We have the overall responsibility of environment safety. We have the overall responsibility of having risk assessment done. We have the overall responsibility for traffic management and control. So if you're a local are a freelance as you outlined, and you are going to be having traffic issues, and where you're filming there's some risk assessment. We're not really doing it because we are doing it to facilitate a specific group, whether international big group. So that's the JCF's responsibility. So we don't, because we provide support for entertainment and sports. Those are local things as well. Some of them very small, but it's our core function. So one of the things, and I'll say this to you, sometimes the bigger productions, they're more organized, they're more structured, and they'll go through JAMPRO, they'll go through the Ministry of National Security, they'll go through the Commissioner of Police. The local person just walks around hoping that it works out. So there's no structure, and they don't get the necessary areas covered out of the way in a timely manner. So it comes to us, we can do what we need to do, administer risk assessment, do an estimate as to what is needed, and put plans in place. Most times the local persons, they give you a tonight, tomorrow morning, you know? So as long as it is structured, it will work.
And this is just a follow-up, is there a cost involved to getting the support from the JCF?
All right, the JCF has a responsibility for traffic management and stuff like that. We don't have a cost for that. However, the organization has some private service arrangement for major events. So we have off-duty officers that, should in case what you're doing require some off-duty officers to assist, they'll be contracted. It's a specific process too. You must apply to us. It must come in writing what you need. It must be formatted, your company, your tax registration, your compliance. Then it's sent to our command. Our command makes a decision on it, sends back instructions for us to go ahead and provide, and the services are there, the taxes are there, and then you can go ahead with that. But for a general thing, you're good to go.
Just in case you're waiting on this question.
I wasn't waiting.
In the United States, a lot of police abuse has been placed on the web, and it has, in some degree, discouraged police abuse of citizenry. My question is, what is my response to? You're not allowed to film a boy by a policeman. I mean, do I have any rights, as a citizen, apart from being a filmmaker, or somebody who does documentaries, who may seek to document everyday things? Do I mean, you see where the question is going. Do I have the right, if I see a police activity, to turn my phone on?
All right, I'll answer
This is not as a filmmaker, it's as a citizen. There's another degree as a documentary person.
That's a question that has maybe 1, 2, 3 stages. But how I'll answer it is, and I gave you, I think it was you, a similar answer. Those things are situational. And if it is that based on the situation there is a breach, the organization we have control mechanisms in place, the Inspectorate of Constabulary and other frameworks for discipline that carries out investigation to find out whether or not a breach is committed. However, if it is that a cop is arresting someone or otherwise, and you are obstructing them or preventing them or endangering yourself, because at times the situation can be that as a citizen, you being the filmmaker, you are endangering yourself in some way because you are exposing yourself to a violent situation that is unfolding or can escalate into some greater levels of danger. So it is the responsibility of the police to protect you. However, where the example you cite in making your question, if it is that is done, there is a framework in the JCF that handles the disciplinary issues surrounding that.
Does the officer that is doing the deed, so to speak, have the right to tell me I cannot use my phone?
And I say it's based on where you are, what's happening, how close you are, if the situation is dangerous or it's escalating. So it's the individual who is on the ground making the call, his state of mind, what is he thinking. So we'll allow, for those issues, we'll allow an investigation to arrive at the truth, whether there was a breach or there was not a breach. So I would not be correct to say, yes, he is wrong, or no, he is. The police officers, they have a responsibility based on our briefing, training, to be respectful to all citizens, right? That's priority one. We are accountable to the citizens and we are to be respectful to them. However, if a breach is committed, there is a control mechanism in the JCF that deals with it. Whatever this... No, you couldn't. No, you wouldn't be making a breach. No, but you wouldn't be making a breach. And if the situation is just as I am now, and danger is not imminent, it wouldn't be wise for him to tell you to. However, if something is unfolding, it could be in your interest that we ask you to step back or to move away from the area. Yes. Because we're not hiding anything, you know. I want to tell you something now. I am happy for our technology, you know. And I am so happy for it. And it allows greater level of accountability, because a lot of times when the filming is done or otherwise, and we go back to it and look at it, it helps us to obtain greater evidence. It might set the accused man free, it might set the policeman free. So it brings about greater levels of scrutiny. And I must tell you that we're moving into a transparent organization where we're not afraid of some things. That it's a state of mind that we are afraid of being transparent. We're not afraid of being transparent or being accountable. Because if you are filming me now, I would be very happy to know that you're doing that. Yeah, you know, so my actions can withstand scrutiny, right? So that's where we are. We are moving into a responsible, transparent, highly accountable organization. All right? Any more questions, or I'm free to go?
Not yet. The question is pertaining to like music videos. In the production of music videos, sometimes what we are asked for, I have found that like the JCF tends to move along the lines of what is it depicted. So, for example, if I requested permission to shoot a music video, and it would be with the use of guns and so on, depicting what the artist wants it to depict, could I be railroaded based on what the artist is asking me to depict by the JCF?
I must tell you that our organization, we aim to be in good moral standing at all times. If we are going to engage in any activity, it must be something that sells brand JCF. Because just like how you're doing business, we have already created a brand JCF. And for your company that you're doing, maybe it's a part of your business strategy or whatever it is, but for us, a lot of areas will be considered before we partner with someone. We look at funding, whether it's how you acquired your funds. We don't want to associate our organization with stuff that might be at some point, called to require scrutiny or otherwise. So We will provide the security where crowd control, because we have a responsibility to the citizens and we have a responsibility to you to keep you safe. However, I feel your question along the line as you were asking for partnership support from the JCF or whatever.
Not specifically partnership, it's more on the lines of the permit request to use like the prop guns and so on. Because I do understand that we could use private security firms so we don't have to use the JCF.
Yes.
But to be very specific, a lot of the artists, they sing violent songs and they want to make music videos with prop guns that depict the violence that they are singing. And I have found that the JCF doesn't really support that stance. Is it that they could choose not to give us a permit to use the prop guns based on what the videos are going to depict?
And someone in the audience is answering you.
I want your answer.
But you want it from the practitioner. I want to tell you that the JCF, we have ethics and codes of conduct that surround our organization, and the decisions that we make, they are guided. They are enshrined in the policies that come down to us. So the decisions will all a year. So we're going to be doing a checklist. I'll put it simple. And ensure that the ethos, what it depicts, all of that. Because we have standard features for granting these, and if none of them is infringing or in breach, for example, it's still on our books that bad word is not accepted, no so? Yeah man, so we can't give permission to cut. You see we take people off the stage at Sting and you see we lock them up and prosecute them for it, man. Yes man, can't give permission to break the law. We cannot, we will not, So that's basically where it is. So as long as it's in keeping with law enforcement checklist, you're good to go.
And one other quick thing, of what the lecturer was saying.
Yes.
I once had an incident where a police officer decided to film me. So can I tell him to stop?
He was filming you.
Yeah, man,
you were acting.
No, I wasn't acting. It was also a routine stuff. But when he quoted, the subsection which he was going to use to search a vehicle and so on, I instructed him that it wasn't intended to be used that way. And he said he had the right one. I said, no, I can't tell you the sections of the law which I know that you cannot do it that way. And he insisted that he could and he's going to film me so everybody can see me went wrong when he come in and take me out to search a car. And he take out his phone and video.
Well,
I eventually let him in and it was good. He was misquoting the law.
All ended well.
Yeah, he was misquoting the law. So.
All right, thank you. So I have a final. Your one is. That's the final one.
Okay. One quick question. If I needed like a police officer to take part in a film, how long will the process take in order to get permission?
All right. The filming question that you asked, I couldn't give you a specific time because our administrative feature operates most things. We require reasonable time. When I say reasonable time, giving us 2 weeks heads up should allow things to run through our mills, go to other locations, do vetting, background checks, and get back to us. So it will be, the timeline for your response will be, based on the workload, what's happening at the specific place. Maybe you're in Kingston and you apply and, it's shorter time as you opposed to you applying in Montego Bay and they're unable to obtain some information. So when you're going to do that, just obtain the information that is needed, provide them with all data set, contacts, locations, whatever it is, so the process can move smoother. Because it's just like any other administrative process that will be held up based on. I'm seeing my timer is giving me you are giving me a timeout. They are giving me a timeout, so you'll have to ask them if I can. They are actually saving me, you know. Go ahead.
I did a short film in my community for GatFest in 2016, right? 2017, I was unable because of the upsurge of violence. So now with the enhanced security measures, am I at an advantage or disadvantage?
All right. So I'll take the question apart like this. Worked 16, didn't work 17 because of crime and violence at the time, and we're at 18 now. And without disclosing the specific community, are you in St. James? So we are seeing a reduction and things are looking pretty well. So if I should retract on your question, what prevented it in 2017 should not prevent it in 2018.
Yes, but because they're in my community now, am I allowed to film in my community?
Yeah, well, I think maybe we would have to speak outside of here because there are a lot of questions that I would have to ask you. And the fact that we're in an open forum, I wouldn't want for you to disclose too much information about the specifics as to your details and the community details. So you could get 3 minutes from me.
Okay, thank
off
you.
the camera.
Okay,
And
thanks.
then, or I could leave with you a business card from my organization that you could, when you reach that bridge, you could call me for us to cross it.
I need a trip,
with you.
please.
All right. All right, so. All right.
Thank you, Superintendent Ellis, very much. Yes. Feel free to hang around because persons may have additional burning questions for you.
On that note, the additional burning question. I do have.
You have a few minutes to
I
spare.
have a 3 o'clock, so I have a 3 o'clock
Okay.
speaking arrangement. So I'll give you 5 minutes more. So
Okay, thank
while
you.
you're doing your changeover, they
Okay.
can hit me with a few more.
Okay, all right, excellent. All right, thank you, Superintendent. All right. I am now going to call upon Mrs. Hislop Holt. She's the manager for commercial business development and marketing at MBJ Airports Limited, that's Sangster International Airport. You may see on your agenda where we were expecting UDC, however, they were unable to attend. So now I welcome Mrs. Hislop Holt to the podium. Please welcome her. And she'll be presenting on filming on location and in particular Sangster International Airport.
Afternoon all. Thank you for the invitation to be here today to share with you just how we facilitate filming at MBJ at Sangster International. We try our best to facilitate creative industries, and private persons also normally have requests for filming, especially persons coming into the island, and we try our best to facilitate them. So I'll just go through the process with you, and if you have any questions at the end. Okay, so the first thing we do, most times persons would send us an email or they would call us with a request to say they have some filming to be done and what's the process. So the first thing we do, we direct them to JAMPRO. So first thing, if we are going to approve any filming on airport, once it is commercial filming, it has to be approved by JAMPRO. JAMPRO would then send us that approval to say they have approved, we can go ahead. Once we get that approval from JAMPRO, the next step is for us, we would respond by sending them our filming policy. So we have a filming policy which is really to protect us as well as the persons doing the filming, and I'll go through it. So in terms of the application, so really the intent of the filming policy is to ensure that the persons on airport, they are protected and there is no disruption from the filming. So if the filming will take place during the regular operation of the airport, the first thing is it should not interrupt the day-to-day operation of the airport, nor delay or inconvenience passengers going through aircraft movement, and also we have to ensure safety and security of all users of the airport. The majority of the airport is in a restricted area. So from time to time, we have persons, we may have media persons, there's a freelancer, she had a question. Persons may want to do an article, or there's an article about MBJ or about Sangster International, and they drive up to the curbside and they want to take a picture of the facade of the airport. And even with that, we would ask that they contact us. Why? We would want to know for what purpose are they using this photograph. So we urge you all, for whatever reason you want to come to the airport for filming, a photo shot, whatever it is, please just contact us and just let us know the purpose of the filming or the photograph. All right. Some of the things in the policy, we have some fees, and most of those fees are security passes fee. So again, I mentioned that majority of the airport is restricted. So once you apply and approval is granted, depending on the number of persons in the for the filming, we would have to get extra security, which you would have to pay for. Most times we would also get somebody from our department, somebody who knows what to look for or how to guide you through the airport to ensure that you are not filming anything you should not. There are certain aspects of the airport that should not be filmed at all in general. So for example, the security screening point, immigration, customs. Also, it is hard to prevent, but we urge all persons also to just try and film the area that they are focusing on. So try not to get names, signage, so on. Some persons may have an issue with this. I may have a business at the airport and I do not wish for it to be featured in whatever you're filming. So again, we urge you just to focus on your production. So the security is one aspect in terms of a security personnel. Also, this is what we call a restricted area pass. Any person operating on the airport will have one of these, and they go by different colors depending on the areas you granted access. So when you're filming, you will need one of this, although you're being escorted, and there's a cost for that. It's approximately 230 Jamaican dollars per pass. So it's relatively inexpensive for, filming. I mentioned the branding and signage. Okay, so another thing and the policy which we send to all persons, it gives you a guide of everything that will be required. Some things you may not think of. Some persons come and they will require power. They may be using special lighting. Depending on where you're filming, again, we will advise you, if it's special lighting and you're outside the terminal, then you can't direct the light to the tower or to aircraft landing, those kind of things. So it provides detailed guidelines of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And if you have any questions, you can email us, call us to clarify, which we do. All right, I'll just go through the application form. So it's fairly straightforward, 2 pages. So we would need to know the number of persons who will be in the crew, and also the total number of persons, whether crew and also persons in the act. So that would be completed, and we normally ask for approximately 10 working days. We can facilitate, give you a quick turnaround in less time, but it all depends on the number of persons involved and what's happening at that time. But normally it's about 10 working days. It would also request for you to tell us where you want to do the filming. Is it landside? Is it in the terminal? Is it airside? And all those areas would have different access and would come with different things. and the type of event. Is it something private? Is it just a family event? Somebody's coming who hasn't seen their parents in such a long time, just something, people have these requests. Is it something commercial? Is it an entity that operates on the airport that needs to do some marketing trust? And whatever it is, they need to apply to us for the filming, and we will guide them accordingly. Equipment requirements. You're going to need power. What type of equipment you're using, we need to ensure that we can provide that. Some persons may be using something which we don't have that power supply or not in that specific area. So we need to be able to know to tell you, you need to come with certain things or not. And most times you will require parking, so we also require the parking details. So from the airport standpoint, it's quite straightforward, and based on requests, we try to update the policy. So if we don't have something here and somebody asks for something that we have never had before, then we update the policy accordingly. So it's pretty straightforward. As I said, for whatever purpose you need to come on airport for a shoot or filming, we require that you contact MBJ, the operators of Sangster International Airport, to advise of the reason for the filming with the details, and we'll facilitate. Any questions? Go ahead.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
I got some information from you guys last year, but something came to mind just now and I wanted to find out. Regarding shooting on a plane, I know we'd have to go through Jumper, of course. Is there any, and I know we'd probably have to go through the airline to get...
Well, you would have to go through the airline because unfortunately MBJ does not own any aircraft. So you would have to definitely go to the airline.
So could you guys assist?
And we would direct you, right. So if it is you just need to be on a plane, most times we know who would have a plane staying longer, may be able to facilitate you, and you would go ahead. We would give you the contact and you go ahead and you negotiate directly. If they approve, then you come back to us.
Okay. And what about with regards to like the jet center area?
So that is a privately operated facility.
So that's the IM Jet?
That's the IM Jet Center. So again, you would have to directly speak with them.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
This one has to do with your jurisdiction, perimeters of shooting. And use. For example, if you're telling a story, a general story about tourism in Montego Bay, you may just want a shot of the outside of it.
Which is what I said. Most people, they just want a general shot, but again, you're on the airport, and we just want to know for the purpose for which the photo will be used. That's all. So it's not that we're gonna say no, but we don't know. People can be there, and you put it in something with guns, and you see Sangster International
Airport. The story might be about the smuggling of guns to Jamaica through the airport, but there's no,
and we have seen that before. Like we have seen a picture in the newspaper with Sangster International at the water fountain, and it's about something like that.
There you go. It's
and so actually, I've seen it where it had nothing to do with Sangster International. It was just another airport, but they found our photo. But we would prefer not. But as I said, if it is, and if that's what you want to use it for, you come to us and you let us know.
Is there such a thing as a distance of the shot, the periphery? Can I shoot you from a car just driving past?
I mean, you're on the airport.
So we would prefer... Once you're in, you have special domain in because...
Well, once you enter the airport gateway.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Filming? There are times when we have, like, I haven't had any requests for the last maybe 6 months, and then maybe in 1 month you may have 2 or 3 or 4. So it's not like I can say 1 per month or anything like that. It's just when persons require to film. Any other questions? No? Pardon me?
Do you act?
If I act, I look like an actress, or I could be one. Well, maybe that's something I should talk to you about now.
Well, the previous presenter, Superintendent Davis,
Ellis.
He was given ideas for scripts in terms of you can come to the cellar and you can't come to the jail and film or prisoners, but it sounds like a story, and then you come here and you talk about the airport. So it looks like we're building a story today.
Okay. All right, well, if there are no further questions. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I went to Mexico once and my company had sent me, so I felt, all right, I'm just going to document this. And after I passed immigration, I was in the waiting area, went to Margaritaville, the bartender offered me a drink and I have that recorded. And it was just fun because I was nervous about the flight and my journey. That's my journey. Now imagine if I decide to share that without having been at this conference and knowing that you'd request. And this is just showcasing the offers of the airport in the waiting area, the different stores, that kind of thing. Is it something that would be, let me not say frowned upon, but the fact that you're saying you'd want to know what this is being used for? If this is now put on a vlog on YouTube or on a website, is that just okay? Because I've seen a lot of travel vloggers visit Jamaica and they have the Sanctions International Airport in their stories and that kind of thing. So in the event we're just promoting or showcasing the best of Jamaica, and it's not something we know to come to an office and say, may I use this clip in my production? How is it seen by the airport?
So it's not that we're going to fine you or anything, we can't. But as I say, we want to control the message of what's portrayed of MBJ and the airport and Jamaica on a whole. So you may think something is perfectly fine, but maybe some people would take offense to it. So that's the only reason why we want to be able. Everybody has a phone now. You capture every single thing. So it's very hard for us to control that. But at the same time, now you know that we would prefer to see the content or to know exactly what the content is and how it will be used. And it's just to control the message that's being sent worldwide.
So I haven't put my video online, but I'm editing it, so I need to come and link you.
Well, you can share it with me.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions or comments? No? All right. Well, thank you for inviting me and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Sharon, for that lovely presentation about filming at the Montego Bay Airport, Sangster International Airport. All right, I'll now invite representatives from NEPA to the stage, Miss Michelle Grant and Miss Frances Blair. They're going to speak about NEPA and the permits that you will need for filming. Come on. Give them a hand.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Good. For us, it's also a pleasure to be here, sharing in the Jamaica Film Commission. It's open day. This is our second run. We participated in the Kingston leg of this presentation, and we found it very useful and interactive. So we're hoping we will achieve the same results. So my team members, Miss Frances Blair and Miss Sarah Parker, and as I said, we're happy to be with you to share a little knowledge and to entertain some questions as it relates to our processes as it relates to environmental and planning processes. So we have a presentation that we like to share with you, and we will just go through. Thank you. Okay, so for this presentation, we want to outline, first of all, to establish the framework for the film industry. We want to talk about the different types of applications. We want to also mention some amendments that were made to the regulations pursuant to the main act, one of the main acts within our mandate. And in doing so, we want to give you an overview of some activities that are associated with the film industry that may require permits and license. So I'll start off by a definition of what we call one of the core words in planning and environmental management, that is development. And you would probably ask yourself, what does development has to do with the film industry? But let's look at the definition of development. Development, as defined in the Town and Country Planning Act, is the carrying out of building, engineering, mining, or other operations in, on, over, under land, or making any material change in the use of the building or other land. And yes, some of the things that you do in the film industry requires, or it will fall under development. And you will see as we go on. So in carrying out a film or making a film, there are different types of applications that one may need to make. We have subdivided into pre-submission and the environmental for this slide. So we offer pre-consultation services. So you may want to come into our office if you're going to have a film, a documentary, a movie that entails some area impacting on the environment, a wetland, a beach area. You can come in at first and you can have discussions with us, and we will guide you accordingly. Next, we will also highlight for you some of the environmental permits and license that you may need, because it's based on specific categories. So we will guide you accordingly based on what we see at that location. So here are some of the possible environmental permits and licenses that you may need. Well, one is their environmental permits and license, and that's pursuant to the permits and license regulations. Then we have beach license pursuant to our Beach Control Act. Also in movie, you may need to take in some waste material. Our superintendent spoke about ammunition. You may also need to have in hazardous waste from another country. So in that instance, you will have to get permit to transit that waste material, and that's covered under the hazardous waste export or transit permit. And you may have to create a scene where you have some discharge from a factory or some other area being had. So these are just some of the things that you need permits for. Then now there's planning permission. So under planning permission, there are about 6 or so. One, a determination, which is pretty much like an inquiry to say, would we need a planning permission for a particular activity? Then there's outline with preliminary plans, more details, change of use, continuation of use, and retention of structure. So say, for example, you'll be using a location that is probably zoned for agricultural or so, and you want to even temporarily change it to like maybe to set up a scene, a setting, to like for some residential or commercial entity, then we will examine what is being proposed, review, and get back to you. Some auxiliary include subdivision, because you may have to get permission, individual titling, etc., building permission. So the last two, those applications are from the municipal corporations. Likewise with planning in some instances, but also for planning, permission can come from the Town and Country Planning Authority. So earlier, I heard my colleague from Montego Bay, she was, MBJ, right? She was speaking about the airports, and Superintendent was speaking about Montego Bay. Now for us, it's Jamaica and its territorial seas. So it's the entire island, and it goes, there's a little boundary outside that we demarcate called our territorial seas. So it's the entire country, so to speak. It's keys, islands, etc. We thought that we would tell you that in 2005, well, the years are going by, so it's like 3 years now, we have had amendments to the permit and license regulations. And some of the amendments pretty much saw that we modified categories, new categories were added, and some of the categories that were added directly relates to the film industry, and we'll see some of those in a minute. The form was revised, so we only have one form now, so one form was eliminated. We had an addition fee charge. So initially we would have, you apply when you're making a permit application, and then you will get another fee at the end. But in some instances, once the operation is ongoing, there's a renewal fee that was introduced. Also, we had what we call the removal of the grandfather clause. So activities, operations prior to the initial promulgation of the regulation in 1996, some activities did not need permit. What we now have is that all activities, once it's included in the regulations, they now need to obtain an environmental permit. And we had a time period when these applications should be submitted. So pretty much that's a summary of the changes to the permits and license regulation. So in a nutshell, these are about 22 or so classification of the activities requiring an environmental permit. And we'll see further for the film industry, we can merge into the biological resources or biodiversity. And that is clear because you're going to be using the natural resources in a lot of instances, as I said earlier, for your scenes, for your setting, the beaches, the wetlands, or rivers, streams, waterfalls, etc. So what we did, we extracted the specific categories that relate to the film industry, and we have them listed here. So there's the importation and introduction of species, flora and fauna, plants and animals, or other biological organisms. And I really like to remind us, for those of us who are old enough to remember, that some years ago we had a monkey coming in for a film in Portland or so, and that monkey, I think his name was Spy, he had to get a special license or special permit for them to take him in to do the filming for 2 days and then back to his country of origin. So that category would be relevant. Some they speak for itself. Moving down to modification, clearance, or reclamation of wetlands. So you know wetlands or mangroves or swamp areas, if you're going to change the appearance or change the character of those areas, then you will also need an environmental permit. The beach features, the physical features associated with beach, you would find that those are there for obvious reasons, because we know a lot of filming takes place on our beautiful beaches. So if you're going to be clearing the sand dunes, taking sand from the dunes, constructing sand dunes, excavating a river area or a beach area, then you would need an environmental permit. The second to last bullet speaks to beach license. So in a number of instances, once you are doing something on the beach, the foreshore, the floor of the sea, the bottom of the sea, or the water column, you would need beach license. And what we have been doing is to grant special beach license for those. And if you have endangered species in your possession, some animals are endangered and you should not have them in your possession without getting the requisite license. So that also would be a requirement that's applicable to the film industry field. Establishment of and operation of ecotourism and nature tourism facilities. So if you're going to be doing zip lining, a canopy tour, etc., more than likely the persons may have environmental permits already. So you may just need to advise us that you'll be doing filming, etc., so that we can look at the conditions that were granted with that facility. So in doing your feasibility work, you can bear that in mind as something that the location, they should have the requisite permits, okay? Also, operation of a zoo, a pet shop, or a theme park. So like those water parks, etc., they are categorized as theme park. And as I said, each location is site-specific, and that also should be taken into consideration at all times. Understanding so far? Okay, great. All right, so earlier I mentioned that we introduced a fee. So it's on column 4, where if the activity is ongoing, then there's a renewal fee that is charged. For some activities, there is no renewal fee, but for some, there are renewal fees. And in the film industry, the ones that we spoke about, not all have renewable fees. Some don't. So in making the application, what we will have to do, or what you will have to do, there are some application fees to be paid. There's a form to be filled out, company documentation, ID, TRN, proof of ownership, etc. 1 second, please. Sorry about that. Project brief, location map, site plan, site layout. So you will give us an comprehensive overview of what is being done. And we, as I said, the DAC provides pre-application guidelines. So once you make contact to the DAC, we will tell you exactly what is needed. We will also highlight for you the relevant parameters, whether it be planning or environmental, that are applicable to your project or the film being contemplated. So this is how the applications are reviewed. They go to technical branches within NEPA. For the subdivisions, which probably won't be your responsibility, but they go to a separate meeting. but we have an internal review meeting every Friday. The decisions from these meetings feed into a technical review committee. Now, at the technical review committee, we have representatives from relevant agencies, and they will make comments as fit. So, for example, let's say you're going to be filming a bauxite area, you're going to be doing a documentary, for example, about bauxite and the bauxite industry. We will have to speak with the Jamaica Bauxite Institute. If there's a river that you're going to be extracting water from, then we have to speak with the Water Resources Authority. So we take comments from relevant agencies and feed those comments into whatever approval or decision is to be made. Okay? The two authorities at NEPA are the Natural Resources Conservation Authority. They are the environmental arm, and the Town and Country Planning Authority, and they are the planning arm. So those are the two authorities. And it stems from the legislation, the whole legislative framework. This is here for information. This is available on our website, and pretty much we have outlined this process flow in the previous two slides. Application comes in, we screen it. There's an opportunity for pre-meeting. Once it satisfies the requirement, then that application goes through the system. We do a site inspection. We take it to the internal review meeting. If it is reviewed favorably, it goes to the next meeting and then to the authority for a decision. That decision is communicated, and in instances where a permit is needed, the relevant documentation is prepared, fees paid, and the document issued. Now, as a partner in the film industry, you have certain conditions to adhere to in the environmental permit or the permission that has been granted. And you must comply with those conditions. These are just some of the different agencies that we have to collaborate with. And as I said, it's specific. So like for civil aviation, if there's no need to consult with Civil Aviation Authority, we wouldn't consult with them. But if there's a need, we would. Irrigation for canals, mines and geology, if you're going to be, if it's in your film you want the terrain to be rugged, or you have to cut some slopes, etc., we would have to consult with them. So long and short, once you're doing anything and it has an impact on the environment and you're setting up any building, then you should consult with NEPA. There's a portal that we have that allows you to help to track your applications, and it's called Amanda. Once you know the application number, you can log it in, and it provides you with update as the review process progresses. And there's monitoring. Some monitoring is required by you, or we may have routine monitoring, or you just see us turning up, because we have the power of entry just to see that you're complying with the conditions that have been granted. And that is our contact information, NEPA, and then we have the Development Assistance Center for the pre-application consultation. I think that wraps up the presentation. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Basically, you're saying if we intrude on the environment in any fashion, the entire island, we have to get a permit. Is that what you're saying? Basically, if we intrude on the environment in any form,
Right.
we have to get...
Right. We would like you to consult with us before you intrude.
Is there a degree? I'll give you an example.
Okay, so, sorry. So I pointed out that if you have wetlands, because I mean the beach areas, those are some common areas. Wetlands, beach areas, where you have dunes, etc.
Okay. If it's, I'll give you an example. I'm shooting something that requires me to go back in history, in time, and I find an old building that I would like to renovate to some degree.
Right.
Would I have to get permits from you to do that?
From the municipal corporation.
But I wouldn't worry about the NEPA side of it.
Well, it depends on the extent to which you are doing your renovation. So when you make the application, it could be just a determination to say, Parish Council or Municipal Corporation, I'm doing this. Can you guide us? If it is that they see that NEPA would need to comment, they would forward that to us for our comments.
Okay, the other side goes to the, I have another question. A question having to do as a documentary maker. I'm doing, for example, hypothetically of course, I'm doing something that is critical of NEPA or the Jamaica bauxite business. At what point do I have the ability to override your, I don't want to expose this particular fact? You understand my question?
So,
I wanted to go time. You can tell me don't go there. Correct?
We can't say don't go to Boat Island.
Well, I'm just bringing up, like I said, this is all hypothetical.
Yes, man,
And the Jamaica bauxite, I have a negative story or a perceived negative approach story on. As documentaries, as you know, are oftentimes critiqued. I mean, what stops you from just giving me a blanket no? What are the, you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so you will have to be in that document, it's a documentary, so you're filming what exists.
Yeah.
Right, so you're not going to be creating any scene or setting.
Correct.
Right? So
therefore, I don't have to ask you any permission whatsoever.
You wouldn't have to ask.
Can you prohibit my entry into these areas?
I can't. NEPA cannot.
NEPA cannot.
No.
That
but you'd have to, the company may prohibit your entrance.
Okay, I understand that.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Just a comment, if you're filming at a heritage site, if it's a historical heritage site, you go to JN.
JN, Jamaica National Heritage Trust. Yes. And they may ask us for comments on the planning aspect. Yes, sir. And we also liaise with them too, because if you send us something and we realize there's some archaeological feature, then we would consult with them on it. Yes, sir.
But if I got permission or so forth from NEPA and you guys turn up and I'm not complying with the rules?
I'll let Ms. Parker answer.
Well, if you're not complying,
it's good. It's working.
If you're not complying with the environmental permit, well, we do have an enforcement arm of the agency that will, for one, they might be the ones who came to your site and investigated and found that you are in non-compliance. There are several different steps that can be taken. First, a site warning notice might be given to you, which is something like something similar to a ticket. Further to that, we ask that you come into compliance within several days. If it is an activity which you can come into compliance in a short period of time. Further on to that, we may write you. That's called a warning letter. Further on to that, it might be escalated to a point where you're served with either an enforcement notice, a cessation order, a suspension of your permit, or even be taken into court. So that is the entire suite of enforcement actions that can be taken against you.
Good evening.
Okay.
So if you are shooting on a location and the owner of that property is making modifications to facilitate you,
Yes.
so if I weren't shooting and he's modifying his property, would he still need your permission for that?
Yes, you would. Upstairs.
What if I got permission from NEPA to like discharge an explosive device, and then like they do research and says okay, and then it causes a tsunami? Do I suffer any consequence?
Well, explosives are not in our remits, so you would not have gotten a go-ahead from NEPA to do that in the first place. We do not control explosive devices. So if it is that you are going to throw a dynamite or something like that, you would have to go through the Mines and Geology for their permission. So.
However, we would have to get in action to respond to the event, the emergency event that you would create, because we are one of the first responders.
Okay, thanks.
So you see, a lot of things, I'm sure, okay, we're doing films, so NEPA not important, man. You see how NEPA important?
Upon applying for a permit or a license, how long will it usually take?
Okay. Okay.
Usually it takes like 90 days. That's our maximum. But depending on what you're doing, we try to facilitate. So if you have a timeline working with, then we try to accommodate based on your timeline.
And remember, the pre-consultation services beforehand, we have seen the benefits of that, because it will guide you so you can do your prep work, so that when you make the application, you have all the requirements, so it's an easy flow through the process. Any other question? No? Okay, one more.
Does your client, the person you're working for, or what you're doing, have anything to do with it? For example, it's a government body, Ministry of Agriculture.
Yeah.
And I'm doing something about the fish.
Yeah.
Fishes.
Yeah.
Would I still need? Does it depend on the client? If, for example, if it's a Ministry of Agriculture, for example, and I'm shooting something about fish, you know, in the water, I still have to go through the whole
Well,
process.
maybe not to get an environmental permit,
Right.
but remember we also we are the repository of tons of information, scientific information.
Correct.
So you can consult us for that.
Okay, and in terms of that, do you operate under the Freedom of Information Act? In other words, if we write you a letter,
Access to information, yes, and we have a...
and you are bound to give us in 30 days answers to questions we
Under
ask?
that act, and we have an officer
Could you?
particularly assigned to that.
Aha, okay. Thank you very much. Aha, thank you.
Sure. Okay, again, we would like to thank you, and thanks for the invite.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, NEPA. I thought that was very informative and the conversation was good. And it's important to understand all of the pieces to the regulatory puzzle that make film work. Right in the middle of that system is JAMPRO. So I just want to remind you that we are a touch point. If you're going to film, contact us early. This is what the biggest
production companies do, this is what the professionals do, and this is what we find is often lacking with the smaller productions, with local productions, that it's when they're on set that we tend to have the challenges of, okay, I need to film on a beach, what do I do? Okay, I'm trying to lock down the production, what now? We don't, we can avoid all of that if we just plan early. And that's just the way filming works across the world. So we just want to make that easier for you so you can focus on the creative aspects and remove the headaches from filming. Thank you again. Do you have a comment? Yeah, please.
Creative industry, particularly film / animation, operates under very strange circumstances in Jamaica. STRAIND, not strange. Strained, rough, right? Generally, the uptake after this is that we have found, I don't know about anybody else, and I'm aware of many of them, but we have actually found a lot more hurdles to the job we do. Would that be the consensus of the questioners? That we have now found a lot more hurdles to the operation or practice of our trade after this. Would that be the consensus? I just asked that as a comment and question. I thought I would just let that be.
Sure. Is there a specific hurdle that you'd like to discuss? Maybe we can.
Just generally, there are so many more hoops now having knowledge. And granted, it's not that the takeaway is yes, we know you're on our side. The takeaway is that in a bureaucratic, driven place like Jamaica, we now realize that we have to plan more. We have to have a longer lead time for work. And obviously, therefore, we may have to charge different sort of administrative elements because of the hoops. And like I said, we are already in a deeply strained industry, as you can imagine. Works for the big guy, fine, and I understand what you're saying. But for smaller practitioners, sorry, not to point on anybody particular, but and for our industry that we are trying to develop, you understand where the problems now just become a bit harder.
We understand that there are challenges and there are problems that we're trying to solve. Specifically when it comes to local production, shooting, how do we make it different for a local production versus an international production to shoot in specific areas? Yes, that is something that we are trying to figure out. But a challenge we do have is that it tends to be last minute. And local productions tend not to understand what the requirements are. So if you need to get the JCF involved, if you don't engage them from earlier on, it's much more difficult for us to lobby on your behalf as to the value of the film. And that's not pointing any fingers, but that tends to be the case. So we both have to work together. We have work to do in terms of making that streamlining that process. And on the other side, your processes need to be streamlined as well. But we're working on it. And, keep in touch with me. I'll give out my card. Let me know when you're shooting a film. Let us know what we can do to make it easier for you so that we can help. Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help. So we'll have to speak afterwards. I'd love to hear what you have to say, but just so that everyone, if you need to leave or if you want to engage more, you can do that. Thanks for coming. We'll be here tomorrow again. Please come back. We'll have more exciting conversations like this. There's a lot more to learn, and there's a lot more discussions to be had. So thanks again. See you tomorrow.